Welcome back to the horror story channel *Bong Toi Trong Dem. Today, we are proud to present a chilling tale titled Three Families Must Pay the Price. Before we begin, if you enjoy this story, please give me a like and subscribe to the channel to support me. Thank you for listening. Now let's begin. The July drizzle fell in fine, icy needles, spreading a pale mist over the county bus station. Hung sat hunched in a roadside tea house, his worn coat unable to keep out the cold. In front of him was a glass of iced tea, the ice long melted, as bland as the tangled thoughts weighing on his mind. Beside him, his battered laptop glowed faintly. The screen opened to a dense note file. Asterisk. The Curse of Three Families. By Say, Preliminary Investigation. It had been 7 years since Hung last returned to his village. Back then, he was an eager college student, untested by failure. Now, he was an unemployed journalist, burdened with unpaid bank debt, and a man searching for a reason not to give up. He inhaled deeply, the damp smell of earth after rain filling his lungs. The 7th lunar month, the so-called ghost month, seemed to blanket the village in a suffocating gray haze. Heading back to the village? The road's dark and treacherous these days. The tea house owner, a middle-aged woman with neatly tied hair, called out, snapping Hung out of his thoughts. Yes, Bai Say village, he answered curtly, unwilling to explain more. Her eyes flickered strangely, as if the name Bai Say carried some unspoken dread. She said nothing further, only poured him another cup of hot tea. Half an hour later, Hung climbed aboard an old bus, jolting along the red dirt road toward the village. The sky was overcast, trees whipped in the wind, branches scraping against the roof with a restless hiss. In the distance stretched fields of young green rice, lush yet eerily still, with no farmers in sight. The bus stopped at the village entrance. Hung stepped off, his shoes immediately sinking into the mud. The narrow path was flanked by ancient bamboo groves, their rustling leaves whispering as if the whole village was silently watching him. His family's old house stood at the far end of the hamlet. The bamboo gate sagged with moss and age. When he pushed it open, the hinges groaned with a chilling creak. The yard was overgrown with banana plants, and a musty stench hung in the air. "Well, if it isn't young Hung back at last," a voice rang out. It was Mr. Ba, the longtime neighbor, thin and stooped, hair snow white but eyes still sharp. Beside him stood his wife, Mrs. Ba, the kind woman who had cared for Hung after his mother passed away. "Yes, I've come to visit, and I'll be staying for a while," Hung said, forcing a smile. Good. Been ages since you came back. The house must be dusty after all these years. Let my wife sweep it clean for you," Mr. Ba said warmly, unlocking the door and ushering him inside. The house was pitch dark, save for thin rays sneaking through the shutters. Hung set down his backpack. Glancing around, his mother's memorial photo still stood there, coated in a thin film of dust. The incense holder beside it was filled with burnt, brittle sticks. That evening, Hung dined at the Ba home. A simple meal of braised fish and boiled water spinach felt strangely comforting. Midway through, Mr. Ba sighed. "Have you heard about Tam?" "Tam? Which one?" "Tam, son of Mr. Doan, your childhood friend. He died last week, at the village pond." "Drowned?" Hung frowned. "They say drowned, but it was strange. When they pulled him out, his eyes were rolled white, his mouth packed with mud, and bruises ringed his neck like it had been gripped." The table fell silent. Mrs. Ba shook her head. "Another ghost month. Ever since your grandfather died beneath that banyan tree, this village has known no peace." Hung swallowed hard, his throat tight. The memory of his grandfather's body sprawled lifeless under the ancient banyan. When he was just 15, surfaced vividly. Accident, or something else? That night, back at his house, the rain had stopped but a heavy fog pressed close. Sitting on the porch, Hung opened his laptop and typed, "Day 1 back in the village. Tam is dead. Villagers whisper it was a spirit dragging him down. The banyan tree, the heart of every rumor. I must go there soon." Near midnight, as he dozed on the creaky bamboo bed, a knock shattered the silence. 3 firm raps. Thud, thud, thud. Hung bolted upright. The door was locked from inside. He held his breath, straining to listen. Wind hissed through the yard. Raindrops ticked from the eaves. Then the knocks came again. Closer this time, against the wall itself. Thud, thud. Shivers raced down his spine. He grabbed the flashlight at his bedside, flicked it on, and shone it toward the door. Nothing, only thick fog curling outside. A gust of icy wind rattled the window. Dogs barked in the distance, then fell abruptly silent. And then he saw it, on the window frame. A smear of wet mud. A handprint, sliding slowly downward, leaving a brown, dripping trail. He froze, drenched in cold sweat. Out in the fields, everything was silent, but Hung knew someone, or something, had come to welcome him back. The next morning, Bai Se village was still shrouded in a thick blanket of fog. Hung sat on the porch with a cup of hot tea in his hands, his mind lingering on the knocks from the night before. The smear of mud on the window frame had dried, but he dared not touch it, afraid it might vanish like an illusion. Footsteps in the lane broke his thoughts. Mr. Ba appeared, pipe in hand, calling out, "Hung, are you coming with me to Tam's funeral? The whole village is going." Hung hesitated, then nodded. If he wanted to uncover the truth behind the curse, this was the best chance to hear the villagers' whispers. Tam's house sat on the edge of the swamp. The narrow path leading there was overgrown with dew-soaked grass. The air was so damp it seemed to thicken every breath Hung took. A foul stench of mud hit his nose. The coffin rested in the center of the house, draped in white cloth. A few flickering candles burned on the altar, their smoke curling into the air. Mourners lined both sides of the room, their faces heavy with grief. Hung bowed and lit an incense stick. When he looked down at the coffin, his heart stopped. Tam lay there, face chalk white. His eyes had been shut by his family, yet the lids still gaped slightly, revealing the whites beneath. His lips were swollen, stained with black mud. Around his neck, despite the funeral scarf covering it, Hung could still see bruises like finger marks. A chill shot down his spine. They say the spirits dragged him down, but I think something darker is going on. A middle-aged man whispered nearby. That swamp has always been strange. Anyone from the 3 clans, La, Tran, Nguyen, who wanders there at night always meets trouble. Hung turned to look. The man leaned closer and lowered his voice. Last month, a girl from the Tran family nearly drowned there. Her parents had to call Madame Nam to perform a ritual before she woke up. The mention of Madame Nam instantly reminded Hung of the village rumors about the eccentric woman said to speak with the dead. He quickly jotted it down in his notebook. By afternoon, drizzle fell again. The funeral rites began, the sound of gongs and drums wailing in sorrow. Hung stood by the porch, noting every detail. Suddenly, as prayers were being offered, a knocking sound echoed from the coffin. The house fell silent. A child screamed. Its mother rushed outside with it. Mr. Doan, Tam's father, went pale, stammering, "It must be the wood shrinking." But the knocks came again, clearer this time, as if someone were rapping from inside. Thud, thud, thud. The mourners panicked. Some fell to their knees in terror. An old man trembled and muttered, his spirits back to claim the living. A rancid stench suddenly filled the room, like swamp mud rising through the floor. The altar candles sputtered and went out. In the darkness, Hung saw a shadow forming on the mirror behind the altar, a figure, pale-faced, with hollow black eyes, neither clearly man nor woman. His heart pounded as he stumbled back. Then, in a blink, the figure was gone. Villagers scrambled to relight the candles. Smoke thick in the air. Madame Nam suddenly entered, dressed in a plain brown robe, her hair tied high, clutching a burning bundle of incense. "This is bad," she rasped. "The resentment is strong. His spirit cannot leave." She placed the incense on the altar and began chanting. The wooden fish drumbeat echoed, her prayers rising, then shifting abruptly as her eyes rolled back. Her voice turned shrill. "The 3 clans must pay. The blood is not yet cleansed. It will return, one by one." The whole room shuddered. Mr. Doan buried his head in his hands. Someone shouted to remove Madame Nam, but before they could, she collapsed onto the floor, unconscious. When the funeral calmed, Hung left Tam's house, his head spinning. The village road was cloaked in dusk. Fog from the swamp billowed thick, swallowing the path. Crickets screeched, frogs croaked. The sounds merged into a chilling chorus. Hung felt eyes on his back. He spun around. Nothing, only bamboo rustling in the breeze. He quickened his pace. The ancient banyan loomed ahead, towering like a giant sentinel. Beneath it, something gleamed. He bent down and picked it up, a tarnished bronze bracelet, etched with strange patterns. Then came a faint sigh. Drifting from behind, Hung whirled, his heart leaping. In the fog stood a gaunt figure, face ghostly pale, long hair veiling half its face. Before he could react, the figure receded into the mist and vanished. The bracelet slipped from his hand, clattering to the ground. In that moment, Hung knew the curse was no rumor. It had truly begun. Hung returned home when night had fully fallen. The old house was pitch dark, lit only by the dim yellow glow of a single bulb hanging from the ceiling. He boiled a kettle, made himself a cup of instant noodles, but every bite tasted bitter. The knocks on the coffin, Madame Nam's shrill cries, and the shadow by the banyan tree all haunted his mind. He opened his laptop and typed a few more lines. Asterisk, Tam's funeral showed strange signs. Madame Nam possessed, shouted, the 3 clans must pay. Shadow by the banyan tree. Strange bronze bracelet. Carefully, he tucked the bracelet he had found into his backpack, treating it as evidence. Dogs barked outside the gate. Hung stiffened and stepped onto the porch. A woman's silhouette flickered in the mist. Lan? He whispered. It was her. Lan stood there, wearing a long brown coat, holding a bundle of lesson plans. Her hair hung loose across her shoulders, her face thinner than he remembered, but her eyes were the same, deep and sorrowful. When did you come back? Lan's voice was soft, tinged with reproach. Yesterday afternoon. I didn't think I'd see you so soon. She was quiet for a moment, then said, the whole village is buzzing about Tam's death. I heard you were at the funeral. Yes, it was strange. Lan, do you believe in ghosts? She gave him a faint, bitter smile. You're still the same, always convinced there's a mystery waiting to be exposed. I don't just believe, I saw it. Lan, with my own eyes. A shiver ran through her. She stepped up onto his porch, peering into his house. Stop digging into this. It's not like the stories you used to report on. This is the countryside, not the city. Some things are better left alone. Hung frowned. Are you hiding something? Lan turned away, avoiding his gaze. It's none of your business. I just want to say, if you value your life, leave before it's too late. Then she turned and walked away, leaving Hung frozen in place. That night, sleep evaded him. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Tam's pale face, the shadow under the banyan, and Lan's eyes filled with things left unsaid. He tossed and turned until exhaustion finally claimed him. In his dream, he stood in the middle of a rice field under a blood-red moon. Drums and gongs thundered in the distance. At the center of the field loomed the banyan tree, and beneath it, a young woman was bound. Her face was smeared with mud, eyes burning with hatred. Villagers surrounded her with torches, shouting, "Witch, take her to the swamp." Hung tried to run, but his legs were stuck fast in the mud. An old man, who looked eerily like his grandfather, stepped forward, pointing a staff at the girl. Her death will rid us of this curse. The drums quickened. The girl was dragged toward the swamp, her screams echoing across the fields. Just before she was submerged, she lifted her face and screamed at him. "Your blood will pay. You will never know peace." Black mud surged like a wave, swallowing her and him. He struggled to breathe, but mud filled his mouth and throat. Hung jolted awake, his back drenched in sweat. Outside the window, darkness lingered, fog thick as smoke. From afar, a dog's wail stretched long and mournful, like grief itself. Clutching his head, his heart hammering, Hung knew this wasn't just a nightmare. It felt like a warning. He opened his laptop and typed with trembling fingers. T. Hua, 1925. Banyan tree, swamp. Must find the truth. Outside, the fog thickened, cloaking the road in front of the house. Through it, he glimpsed the still figure of a long-haired woman. When he rubbed his eyes and looked again, she was gone. But inside, one thing was certain: he would not leave the village. Not until the truth was unearthed. That night, Hung couldn't sleep. He lay on the creaky bamboo bed in his grandfather's old house. Eyes wide open, staring at the moss-covered tiles above. The wind slipped through the cracks in the door, and the banyan leaves outside rustled like someone whispering his name. The wall clock struck 12. The whole village seemed sunk in slumber, broken only by the distant howling of dogs. Then Hung heard it. Thud, thud, thud asterisk. A steady knocking sound echoing from his grandfather's altar room. A shiver ran down his spine. Gripping his flashlight, he stepped onto the cold earthen floor. The altar room was pitch black, the incense on the shrine long extinguished. The knocking continued, louder now, as if someone were rapping on the lid of an invisible coffin. "Who's there?" Hung called out, but only the wind whistling through the rafters answered. He swept the flashlight beam across the room. It caught his grandfather's portrait. For a split second, Hung thought he saw the corner of his grandfather's mouth curl into a smile. Goosebumps rippled over his skin. He stumbled back, knocking over the incense holder, which shattered on the floor. At that moment, the knocking ceased, but a foul, swampy stench rose in its place, pungent and suffocating. Before he could steady himself, the altar room door flew open. A shadow flickered outside, darting quickly toward the banyan tree. Hung charged after it with his flashlight. The night fields were cloaked in thick fog. His light barely reached a few meters ahead. The shadow was gone, only the sound of footsteps splashing through the swamp remained. "Hung!" A woman's voice cried out behind him. He turned. It was Lan, wearing a thin sweater, her hair messy, eyes wide with alarm. "What are you doing here? Running to the swamp at midnight?" "I heard knocking from the house. Then I saw someone run this way," Hung said, gripping the flashlight tightly. Lan's face paled. She clutched his arm. "Don't speak of such things at midnight. Tonight is the full moon of the 7th month, when the spirit gates open, and the dead return easily." Before Hung could reply, the sound of water slapping echoed from the swamp. A figure floated in the misty water. Both froze. Lan clung to him. "No, it can't be," she whispered. "We buried Tam this afternoon." The figure slowly turned. Under the pale moonlight, Hung saw the face, deathly white. Eyes rolled back, mouth stuffed with mud. It was Tam. Hung tried to drag Lan away, but his legs felt glued to the ground. The knocking returned, this time beneath their feet, rising from the earth itself. Suddenly, a muddy hand burst from the ground, seizing Hung's ankle. He screamed, thrashing wildly. Lan bent down, yanking at him, and together they tumbled backward. When they looked again, the hand was gone. They sprinted straight to Mr. Ba's house. Gasping for breath, he opened the door, panic etched on his face. You went to the swamp, didn't you? Heaven help us. No one is supposed to set foot there tonight. The elders warned us." He pulled them inside, bolted the door, and lit a bundle of incense, planting it firmly in the corner. Murmuring a chant under his breath, he finally turned to Hung. "You must listen to me. Tomorrow night, we'll go see Madame Nam. If this isn't resolved, the entire La clan will never know peace." Dusk settled, and Baise village sank beneath a milky white fog. Frogs croaked endlessly, their chorus stretching across the still night. Hung followed Mr. Ba and Lan to Madame Nam's house, which stood apart at the edge of the hamlet, right beside the swamp. The house was dark, lit only by the faint glow of an oil lamp spilling through the window. As they stepped inside, thick incense smoke filled their noses. In the center stood a small altar, draped statues of deities shrouded in red cloth. Madame Nam sat cross-legged on the floor, eyes shut, her long hair loose, lips moving as if conversing with something unseen. Mr. Ba cleared his throat. "Madame Nam, we've brought Hung." He saw, he heard. Her eyes snapped open, clouded, yet piercing. "I already know. Last night, The dead came looking for him. Hung clenched his fists. What do you mean? I only heard knocking, and I saw Tam standing in the swamp. She didn't answer right away. Rising slowly, she fetched a bronze tray from the corner, placed 3 black candles upon it, and lit them. Sit down, if you don't want to meet them out in the fields again. Then tonight I must ask the spirits for justice. Somewhere outside, a leaf trumpet blared, sharp and unsettling, sending a chill up Hung's spine. Madame Nam began to chant, her voice shifting between low and high tones, the rhythm hypnotic. The air in the room grew colder, Hung's breath misted white. Suddenly she screamed, her body convulsing. The voice that tore from her mouth was shrill, not her own. The blood of the 3 clans has not been repaid. Blood will pay for blood. Lan gripped Hung's hand, trembling. Mr. Bob bent low, his face ashen. Madame Nam hurled the incense bundle to the ground, her eyes rolling back, her mouth splitting into a ghastly grin. Hung, son of the Le clan, you thought leaving the village would free you? Your grandfather owed a life. Your father owed a life. Now it's your turn. Hung shot to his feet. Stop trying to scare me. My grandfather is dead. My father vanished years ago. What do their sins have to do with me? The voice shrieked. Long ago, the 3 clans framed Tiwa, bound her to the banyan tree, and cast her into the swamp. Her blood seeped into this earth and became a curse. For generations, none of you will know peace. A sudden wind whipped through the room, slamming the shutters though no storm raged outside. Behind Madame Nam, a shadow formed, the figure of a young woman with long hair. Clad in brown clothes, her face twisted with pain, her eyes glared directly at Hung. Spare us? Lan sobbed. The figure didn't reply, it only raised a hand, pointing toward the doorway where pale moonlight streamed in. Then Madame Nam collapsed to the floor, gasping for breath. The house fell silent once more, save for the chirping crickets outside. Mr. Ba rushed to lift her up. Trembling, she whispered, "It says, you must build an altar of repentance under the banyan tree. If not, when the next full moon comes, another will die. The next victim will be a girl from the Tran clan." Lan's face drained of all color. She clutched Hung's arm so tightly her nails dug into his skin. Mr. Ba's voice was grim. "We must warn the Tran and Nguyen families. Unless the 3 clans perform the ritual together, no one will escape this fate." On the way home, Hung said nothing. In his mind replayed the image of Tam's blank eyes, the knocking beneath the earth, and the anguished face of Tiwa. He remembered the old journal he had found in an abandoned house. Perhaps he hadn't read it all. That night, he laid the journal open on the table. The yellowed page revealed his grandfather's slanted handwriting. July 15, 1925. Today we bound Wa to the banyan tree. She screamed, cursed us all. I was afraid, but there was no turning back. If she lived, the whole village would suffer. The lines that followed were smeared, as though someone had tried to erase them. Yet one sentence remained legible. I knew she was innocent. Hung's heart pounded. His grandfather admitted Tiwa was innocent. Had all 3 clans condemned an innocent woman to death? Outside, the knocking returned. Thud, thud, asterisk, this time right at Hung's window. The next morning, the sky was heavy and gray, as though a storm was about to break. Hung went with Mr. Ba to the house of the Nguyen clan elder. The tiled roof was old, the damp smell suffocating. The elder, a frail man with a silver beard, sat in the center of the room. His gaze weighed down with sorrow. I know already, he rasped. Last night, I dreamed of her too. She stood in the swamp, hair covering her face, pointing straight at my house. I've warned my family not to step outside tonight. Mr. Ba pleaded. Madame Nam said we must hold a ritual beneath the banyan tree. If the 3 clans don't join together, more lives will be lost. The elder shook his head. It isn't that simple. Hung's grandfather was the one who led the trial against Tiwa. If anyone must pay, it is the Le clan first. Hung bit his lip, fists clenched. I've done nothing wrong. I just want this to end so no one else dies. The old man fixed him with a piercing stare. Only the blood of Allah can settle this. If you dare, Then I'll call the Nguyen clan to join. Mr. Ba slammed his hand on the table. No one else must die. There has to be another way. The argument thickened, and rain began to patter against the roof. Suddenly, a piercing scream erupted from the backyard. They rushed out. A young man from the Nguyen clan lay sprawled by the well. Eyes rolled back, foam at his mouth, a fistful of black mud clenched in his hand. The well water churned violently as if stirred by an unseen force, then spouted upward in a jet of crimson. Like blood, Lan cried out, horrified. The curse is furious. The elder trembled, his face drained of color. Fine, fine. Tonight I'll gather my family. We'll go to the banyan and perform the ritual. But blood must be offered, or it won't relent. That evening, rain poured down in sheets. Lightning flashed, illuminating the banyan tree, its massive roots twisting like giant serpents. Members of all three clans gathered, each holding incense. Madame Nam wore a red robe, her head wrapped in a scarf. Clutching a peachwood sword, she began to chant. Drums and gongs thundered through the storm. The air grew thick, the stench of the swamp rising like rot. Suddenly, a frigid gust swept in, extinguishing every torch. Darkness fell. Then came a chilling laugh. Too late, blood has been spilled. I will take more. From the swamp, a black figure surged forward. Swift as the wind, panic erupted. People screamed and scattered. Hung grabbed Lan, dragging her down into the mud. When he looked up, he saw someone being pulled into the swamp. It was a girl from the Tran clan, Lan's cousin. Her screams cut through the night, echoing across the fields, then fell silent. The swamp stilled again, rippling faintly under the lightning's glare. Lan collapsed, sobbing uncontrollably. Mr. Ba fell to his knees, pressing his forehead to the ground, muttering desperate prayers. Madame Nam stood in the storm, her eyes glowing red. I warned you. Blood must be repaid with blood. Otherwise, it will claim you all. One by one, Hung stood motionless, rain drenching his body. The last words from his grandfather's journal echoed in his mind. Asterisk. I knew she was innocent. He clenched his fists, whispering to himself, if someone must pay, then let it be me. A flash of lightning split the sky, illuminating his pale face, his eyes burning with grim resolve. After the stormy night, Bai Se village felt cloaked beneath a funeral shroud. Wails from the Tran household echoed through the hamlet, each cry cutting into Hung like a knife. He sat alone in his grandfather's house, staring at the blotched journal spread across the table. The trembling lines still carried the faded scent of old ink. Asterisk. I knew she was innocent. But the villagers were afraid. They said she kept demons. If I didn't kill her, they would have slaughtered the entire Le clan. Hung gripped the notebook so hard his knuckles turned white, his teeth biting his lip until it bled. He whispered, Grandfather, why did you do it? Why leave this curse for us to bear? Outside, the morning fog was thick. The thud, thud, thud of knocking returned, this time from every direction. Hung rushed out, but the yard was empty, only the banyan tree stretching its limbs toward him. As though beckoning, Lan arrived, her eyes swollen red from a night of crying. The Tran clan blames the La. They want you to pay. Hung gave a bitter laugh. I've thought about that too. But before I die, I need to know the truth. Why did the whole village condemn Tiwa? Why did my grandfather write that she was innocent? Lan hesitated, then spoke softly. I heard from my grandmother. Tiwa was the most beautiful woman in the village. Even the magistrate's son desired her. But when she refused him, he claimed she was a demon who bewitched men. The villagers grew furious and spread tales that she raised spirits to ruin the harvest. Hung froze. So she died, because a powerful man wanted revenge for his wounded pride? Lan nodded, but no one dared speak of it. Fear silenced them all. A gust of wind flipped the journal open, dislodging a thin page hidden in its spine. On it was a hand-drawn map, marked with a red dot west of the swamp, a place no one dared enter. At the bottom was scrawled, asterisk, the truth is buried here. Hung's eyes lit with resolve as he held the paper. We have to go there. If we can find it, we might convince the three clans to perform the ritual without more bloodshed. Lan faltered. That's the silent grave. They say anyone who enters never returns. Hung grasped her hand firmly. If we don't, more will die. Tonight, we go. That night, the moon hung dim behind a veil of smoke. Hung and Lan followed the narrow path to the swamp's western edge. The air was icy, the stench overpowering. The map led them to a mound of earth where a cracked stone stele stood. Its carvings long eroded. Hung dug with a spade, each plunge into the muddy soil like stabbing flesh. Lan kept watch, glancing nervously over her shoulder. Hung, I swear someone's watching us. Just then, his spade struck something solid. He unearthed a rotting wooden box, bound with frayed rope. Inside lay a heap of bones, and a silk cloth embroidered with words. Asterisk, I died unjustly. My blood will call for yours. Suddenly, a muddy hand seized Hung's ankle. A pale face emerged from the muck. Tiwa. Her wet hair clung to her skin. Her eyes burned red, her mouth stretching in a grotesque grin. Lan screamed as a storm wind howled to life, the swamp roaring as if it boiled. The knocking thundered like war drums. Tiwa shrieked, "Give me back my life! Blood, blood, blood!" Hung clutched the bone box, falling to his knees. "If you seek vengeance, let me be the one. But spare the innocent." A freezing gust swept over them. The spirit halted, fixing her gaze on him. Slowly, she sank back into the mud, leaving behind a final echo. Asterisk, on the last full moon, beneath the banyan, your blood will decide. The wind ceased. Silence reclaimed the swamp. Land collapsed. Trembling, Hung held the box tightly, his eyes blazing with determination. We have proof now. It's time to force the village to face the truth. By midday, the village drum at the communal hall struck 3 solemn beats. All of Baise gathered in the courtyard, the air thick with dread. Every eye turned to Hung as he stepped forward, clutching the wooden box to his chest. Lan walked beside him, her face pale. The elders of the Nguyen and Tran clans sat stiffly on a long bamboo bench, their expressions grave. Mr. Ba stood close, giving Hung a small nod, urging him to speak. Hung set the box down in the center of the courtyard and opened it. Inside lay bleached bones and the blood-stained silk cloth. A ripple of murmurs swept through the crowd. "These are the remains of Tiwa," Hung declared, his voice ringing out. "I found them at the silent grave west of the swamp. She was innocent. My grandfather and the elders condemned her on false charges. The curse is real, but it will only end if we repent. Not by spilling more blood." The villagers buzzed with unrest. A man from the Tran clan shot to his feet. "Repent? My sister died last night. Who will give her back to me?" A young Nguyen clansman hurled a brick to the ground. "Blood alone will break the curse. The La clan must pay." The crowd erupted, Nguyen and Tran youths surging toward Hung. Mr. Ba threw himself in front of him, shouting, "Enough! Kill each other and the resentment will only grow stronger." At that moment, the sky darkened without warning. A cold wind tore through, flipping mats into the air. The knocking began again. Thud, thud, thud asterisk, this time pounding from beneath the courtyard itself. Panic swept the villagers. They shoved and stumbled in chaos. Then she appeared. A towering black figure rose in the center of the yard. Tihoa's specter. Her hair swept the ground. 3 faces whirling in rotation, one weeping, one laughing, one screaming. The villagers shrieked, dropping to their knees in terror. The wraith's voice roared, "One life is not enough. I demand the blood of the La clan's heir." Hung stood unmoving as drizzle began to fall. He dropped to his knees before the phantom, shouting, "If blood is needed, take mine, but spare them." A whirlwind tore through, toppling the altar. The bone box was flung open, scattering remains across the courtyard. Tihoa's crimson eyes fixed on him. Lan rushed forward, clinging to him, sobbing, "No, you can't die." The ghost's shrill laughter echoed. On the final full moon, beneath the banyan, his blood must flow. If not, the swamp will drown in the blood of the whole village. With that, she vanished. The wind ceased, leaving devastation behind. Villagers cowered on the ground, silent with fear. Mr. Ba panted heavily. then turned to Hung. "You saw it yourself. There's no turning back. On the next full moon, you must be ready." Hung nodded, his eyes hollow. Lan gripped his hand tightly, trembling. "We still have time. We must find another way. I won't let you die." Hung gazed at the distant banyan tree, dread and resolve twisting in his chest. He knew the next full moon would decide the fate of them all. That afternoon, Hung and Lan quietly made their way to Lin Ung Pagoda, the ancient temple on a mound north of the village. The temple bell tolled, its echo lingering in the still air. Taoist Master Huyan Kong was sweeping leaves in the courtyard. When he saw them, he paused, his eyes deep and knowing, as though he had foreseen their arrival. "You've come," he said softly. "I know today is crucial. The resentment in this village is so strong. It can be felt from afar." Hung knelt and recounted everything that had happened at the communal hall. Huyan Kong listened in silence, then nodded slowly. "Ti-Hua is a vengeful spirit, but not beyond release. You must restore justice for her, not with blood alone, but with truth." He led them into the ancestral chamber and retrieved an old scripture scroll. Unrolling it, he pointed to an ancient rite, the ritual of absolution. All three clans must confess their sins, offer incense, and erect a proper grave for the wronged spirit. If even one clan refused, the resentment would grow stronger, and the last survivor of the La clan would bear the curse. Lan clutched Hung's hand tightly. "We have to make them agree, or you'll truly die." Huyan Kong nodded gravely. "Tonight, I will help you perform a binding rite to suppress the resentment until the full moon. But be prepared, it will be dangerous." That night, drizzle fell lightly as the three of them stood before the banyan tree. Huyan Kong arranged incense, candles, and talismans in the four directions. He planted a peachwood sword in the ground and began chanting. The air turned frigid, mist coiled thick around the roots. Darkness closing in, the cry of crows echoed overhead. Suddenly, a mournful wail rose from the swamp. Lan trembled, and Hung gripped her shoulders to steady her. Huyan Kong's chanting grew louder, his voice rising and falling like waves. The candles flared violently, the wind gusting against its own current. The shadow of Ti-Hua appeared behind the banyan. This time, she bore only one face, streaked with tears. The ghost whispered, "Give me justice, and I will depart." Suddenly, a violent gust snuffed out the candles. Darkness swallowed everything. An icy hand seized Hung's shoulder, yanking him to the ground. Lan screamed. Huyan Kong slammed the sword into the earth, shouting, "Return!" A flash of light burst from the talisman. The spirit vanished, leaving only the ragged breathing of the three survivors. The master wiped sweat from his brow, his face pale. "The resentment has weakened, but the full moon will be the final reckoning. If we fail, none in this village will survive." On the way back, Hung kept glancing over his shoulder, haunted by the sense of being followed. When they reached his house, he froze. At the doorway, someone had planted a thin bamboo stalk, a blood-stained red talisman fluttering from it. Lan gasped. "That's a banishment charm. Someone in the village wants you dead." Hung's fists clenched. It was no longer only the dead he had to fight. Living hatred lurked among the villagers too. That night, he opened his grandfather's old journal again. On the final page, hastily scrawled lines stared back at him. Asterisk, if one day my descendant reads this, remember, my blood carried the sin. Only the blood of my children can wash it away. Hung traced the faded scar on his hand, a chill crawling up his spine. He knew there was no escape. The full moon was coming, and soon he would have to decide, sacrifice himself, or find a way to end the cycle of blood forever. The next morning, fog blanketed all of Baisei. The air was so heavy that villagers avoided each other's eyes. Lan rose early, brewed a pot of tea, and set it before Hung. He sat in silence, his eyes sunken after a sleepless night. "We must begin today," Hung said, his voice hoarse. "We have to convince all three clans. If even one refuses, we're all doomed." Lan nodded, though worry gnawed at her. She knew the Nguyen and Tran families were seething with grief, Persuading them to join in a ritual of repentance would be like prodding an open wound. Their first visit was to the head of the Tran clan, Tran Kai. A gruff old farmer notorious for his temper. Hung knelt in the courtyard and recounted everything he had witnessed during the binding ritual. Placing his grandfather's journal before him, Kai skimmed the pages, his weathered face twitching. "So, your grandfather was the ringleader?" he barked. Slamming the book down. "My son is dead because of this curse. And now you ask me to forgive?" Hung bowed his head. "Not forgive, release. If we don't, the rest of your family will die too. Your son won't be the last." The words silenced him. He turned away, his shoulders trembling. At last, he sighed. "Fine, I'll take part, but I doubt the Nguyen clan will." That afternoon, grim news spread. A Nguyen clansman, Tam's uncle, was found hanging from the kapok tree at the village entrance. No one knew if it was suicide or something else dragging him there. On the bark, written in blood, were crude words. "Full moon, blood will flow." Lan was horrified. Hung stood frozen. The tragedy only fueled the Nguyen clan's fury. At the funeral house, when Hung approached, the clan elder's face was crimson with rage. "You dare show your face?" he roared. "This is all because of the La clan. On the full moon, I'll strike you down beneath the banyan myself to end this." Hung met his gaze, unblinking. "If killing me would end it, I'll accept. But are you certain? Would you wager the lives of the Nguyen clan that my blood alone will suffice?" The elder faltered. Hung placed the journal on the altar, his voice low and steady. "Tonight, if she appears, ask her. If she demands blood, I'll be there. But if she demands truth, then you must join us in the ritual." The old man said nothing, his face torn between hatred and fear. That night, fog grew so dense the village gates vanished from sight. Hung sat on the porch with a cup of rice wine, staring toward the banyan. In the distance, 3 pale blue flames drifted across the fields, merging into a streak of light that led straight to the swamp. Lan stepped out, clutching his hand. "Do you see them? They're calling us." Hung nodded. "Tomorrow is the full moon. If the Nguyen join, we have a chance. If they don't, I'll offer my blood." Lan wrapped her arms around him from behind, tears wetting his shoulder. "I won't let you die, even if I have to kneel at their doorstep all night." The full moon was just a day away. The village hung suspended between 2 worlds, life and death. Hung knew tomorrow would decide everything, the day when the 3 clans must face their past and choose their future. At the far edge of the village, dogs howled in long, mournful cries, echoing like the lament of the dead. That evening, Hung and Lan returned to the Nguyen clan elder's house. The night was pitch black, drizzle falling fine and cold, the wind hissing through the leaves like a chorus of weeping voices. The door was bolted tight. Hung knocked, and after a long silence, the sound of a latch sliding open came. The elder stepped out, his eyes bloodshot from sleeplessness. "What more is there to say?" he growled. Without hesitation, Hung dropped to his knees in the courtyard. "I don't ask you to forgive the La clan. I only ask that you give the living a chance. If we don't hold the ritual together, everyone will die, including the Nguyen." Lan knelt beside him, her hands trembling. "Please, uncle, save the village. She only wants a proper burial." The elder glared, about to turn away, when a child's laughter rang out from the garden. All 3 whipped their heads around. A small shadow stood beneath the banana trees, long hair veiling its face. "Lan," Hung whispered, "there's no one there." Suddenly, the figure shot toward them, a blast of icy wind slamming into their faces. The oil lamp inside the house sputtered out. Darkness swallowed the courtyard. In the gloom, a blue halo formed, and Ti-Hwa emerged, clearer than ever before. She did not scream. She fixed her gaze on the elder, her voice low and resonant, like it rose from the depths of the swamp. "Nguyen Van Phuc, the blood of the Nguyen is not clean. 100 years ago, your father called me a witch to seize my family's land. Do you deny it?" The elder shook, frozen in place. Hung turned to him, teeth clenched. "You hear her? Admit it, and perform the ritual, she'll go." Ti-Hwa turned her tear-streaked eyes toward Hung. I do not need your blood, but if he refuses, you will die in his place. The wind howled. The roof beams groaned as though about to collapse. The elder crumpled to the ground, clutching his head. Enough. It's true. My father did it. I'll admit it. Tomorrow night, I'll come to the banyan. At those words, the wind ceased. The oil lamp flickered back to life. Ti-Hwa faded, leaving only a whisper hanging in the air. Tomorrow night, if any are absent, all will perish. The elder panted, sweat soaking through his robe. I'll summon the clan, but if, after the ritual, a Nguyen still dies, I'll take your life myself. Hung nodded without fear. If she is not released, I will give my life willingly. Lan clutched his hand, her voice breaking. Don't say that. He turned to her, gently brushing her hair back. I promise to live, but this must end. That night, thunder cracked across the sky though no rain fell. The horizon above the fields glowed red as if aflame. From the banyan tree came the steady beat of a drum. Thud, thud, thud asterisk. Like the pulse of a giant heart. Mr. Ba arrived at Hung's house carrying a bundle. Here, peachwood sword, talismans, incense. Tomorrow night, there's only one chance. If we fail, this village will become a graveyard. Hung gripped the sword, staring at it for a long time. It felt heavy, as though it bore the weight of Bai Sei's fate. Lan stood at his side, eyes fixed on him. Tomorrow night, I'll be there with you. No matter what happens. Hung nodded, a spark of unyielding resolve in his gaze. Tomorrow night, we end this. The full moon night. The blood-red moon hung heavy in the sky, staining the fields below in its sinister light. A choking fog rolled over Bai Sei, so dense the paths disappeared into whiteness. Hung, Lan, Mr. Ba, and Taoist Master Huyan Kong led the procession of all three clans toward the banyan tree. Each person clutched incense or lanterns, their footsteps crunching against the damp earth, hearts pounding in unison. The banyan loomed ahead, its vast branches swaying though no wind stirred. Beneath it, Huyan Kong had set up the altar, a low wooden table, 3 incense burners, a bowl of chicken blood, a bowl of rice, and a white garment representing Ti-Hwa. Begin, the Taoist whispered. The 3 clan elders knelt before the altar, chanting words of repentance under Huyan Kong's direction. Behind them, Hung gripped the peachwood sword tightly. Lan lit incense, her tears falling as she gazed at the white garment soaked with dew. The chants droned steadily, but with each verse the wind grew fiercer. Candles flickered, close to extinguishing. Then, laughter, shrill and piercing, echoed from every direction. Ti-Hwa appeared above the altar, her hair whipping wildly. 3 faces cycling endlessly, one weeping, one smiling, one screaming. You admit your sins, but is it enough? Her voice thundered. Elder Nguyen collapsed forward, forehead striking the ground. Our ancestors were wrong. Spare the Nguyen clan. Tran Kai also pressed his head to the dirt, his shoulders trembling violently. Hung stepped forward, sword in hand, kneeling by the altar. I, the last descendant of the La clan, take the guilt of my forefathers. If blood is needed, let it be mine, but spare the rest. In that instant, a whirlwind erupted, toppling the altar. The banyan shook, its roots groaning. From the soil seeped a foul black liquid, reeking of decay. Ti-Hwa's laughter split the air, her eyes blazing scarlet. Blood must spill. Hung drew the blade across his arm, deep and resolute. His blood dripped onto the soil, mingling with the black ooze. The ground quaked beneath them. The spirit writhed in the air, her 3 faces merging into one. Tears streamed down her ghostly cheeks. Justice, at last, her voice faltered. But one thing remains. Suddenly, the wind ceased. Her figure vanished. The altar lay in ruins, silence pressing against them. Huyan Kong collapsed to the ground, gasping. It isn't over, she is only calmed. Tomorrow night will be the judgment. Faces drained of color. Elder Nguyen wiped his brow, his voice ragged. If tomorrow fails, I'll kill him myself. He jabbed a finger at Hung. Lan rushed forward, clutching Hung fiercely. No one will touch him. Mr. Ba seized Nguyen's shoulder. His voice stern. We have one chance left. Tomorrow night we must raise a shrine for her. If not, we're all dead. Hung stared toward the swamp, where the moon glared blood-red above the mist. He felt unseen eyes burning from the darkness. That night, he bound the wound on his arm and sat before a mirror. This time, the reflection smiled back, not cruelly, but with sorrowful eyes glistening with tears. A whisper filled his mind. Tomorrow night, return me to where I belong. Hung closed his eyes, drawing a deep breath. He knew the next night would be the final reckoning, the battle between life and a century-old vengeance. The next morning, Bai Se lay in an eerie silence. No roosters crowed, no dogs barked. The entire village seemed smothered beneath a veil of milky fog. Hung awoke from a restless sleep, haunted by the vision of Ti-Hwa standing at his window. In the dream, she did not scream. She only looked at him with eyes wet with sorrow, as if trying to speak without words. Lan entered quietly, carrying a bowl of porridge. Eat something. Today we have to go to the communal yard to build the shrine. Hung nodded, though unease pressed heavy in his chest. By midday, all three clans gathered beneath the banyan. Under Mr. Ba's direction, men chopped bamboo, shaved stakes, and packed earth. A small shrine rose beside the great roots, a single chamber woven from bamboo and palm leaves. Inside it a clay altar for Ti-Hwa's spirit tablet. As he arranged incense and candles, Mr. Ba prayed aloud. Lady Hwa, today the village raises a shrine to bring you home. Please rest now, and let us live in peace. A cold gust swept through, rustling the leaves. The incense flared violently, as though someone had exhaled upon it. Toward dusk, a sound carried across the fields, the faint sobbing of a child. Villagers scattered in fear, some fleeing back to their homes. Lan clutched Hung's hand. Do you hear it? It sounds like a little girl crying. Hung nodded, drawing the peachwood sword. Stay here, I'll go. Step by step, he approached the swamp's edge. The water was mirror still until bubbles rose, and a pale hand broke the surface. Grasping a bamboo stake, Hung froze. Slowly, a figure emerged from the water, Ti-Hwa, but she looked different now. She wore a spotless white dress, her long hair flowing loose, her face calm. You have kept your word, she murmured. Tonight, let the final blood fall upon the shrine. Then I will leave. The final blood? What do you mean? Hung demanded, but she only smiled faintly before sinking back into the swamp, vanishing. When Hung returned and told them what he'd heard, Elder Nguyen slammed his fist down. No one will spill blood tonight. If another dies, I'll burn this banyan to the ground. Elder Tran Kai snarled in reply. Would you dare defy her? Without the shrine complete, the entire village is doomed. The air grew taut, the villagers murmuring in panic. Some wanted to flee. Others whispered of abandoning the village altogether. Huyen Kong struck his whisk sharply against the earth. Silence. This is karma that must be repaid. Without blood, the right cannot hold. If anyone dares run, the vengeful spirit will follow them to the end of the earth. His words crushed the crowd into silence. Slowly, all eyes turned toward Hung. They all knew whose blood she demanded. Lan burst into tears, throwing her arms around him. No, he already bled last night. No one can take his blood again. Hung held her tightly, but his eyes gleamed with resolve. I promised, if it's the only way to end this, then I'll do it. By sunset, the shrine was finished. Villagers lit lanterns and incense in solemn silence. Overhead, the sky deepened into crimson, the moon rising once more, fat and red as blood. From somewhere distant came the slow, mournful beat of a funeral drum. Thud, thud, thud asterisk, counting down the last of their time. Gripping the peachwood sword, Hung stepped toward the shrine. The final night had begun. That night, Bai Se burned beneath an otherworldly red glow. The full moon hung enormous and low, like a blood-soaked shield, its light stretching the banyan's shadow long across the earth. At the tree's base, Huyan Kong prepared the altar, a straw mat laid before the new shrine. Incense glowing red, 3 cups of rice wine, a black rooster already bled with its blood collected in a bowl. The villagers knelt in a wide circle, holding their breath. The Taoist raised his voice, booming like a bronze drum. Heaven and earth bear witness. The clans of La, Tran, and Nguyen repent this night. We invite Lady Hua to rest in this shrine, and grant peace to the village. The wind roared, lantern flames sputtered, shadows twisting into grotesque shapes. Mr. Ba held out a knife. Turning to Hung, "It is time," Lan cried out. "No, you can't." Hung gave her a gentle smile. "Lan, I must. This is our only chance." He stepped onto the mat and knelt. With trembling hands, Mr. Ba drew the blade across Hung's wrist. Blood spilled thick and scarlet, soaking into the incense ash. The moment the blood struck the earth, the ground quaked beneath the banyan. Wails of anguish rose from all directions, echoing across the fields. A whirlwind erupted, incense smoke twisting into the form of a woman. Slowly, Ti-Hua emerged, skin white as bone. 3 faces turning at once, one laughing, one weeping, one screaming. "The blood of your clans, at last. It is enough," the 3 voices shrieked together, grating like steel on stone. Some villagers collapsed, others fainted where they knelt. All 3 faces turned toward the circle. The La clan, who began the sin. The Tran clan, who tortured me. The Nguyen clan, who bound and drowned me. You killed me, your blood must pay. Huyan Kong stepped forward, whisk in hand. "Lady Hua, we have built you a shrine and repent with all our hearts. Let go of vengeance, be freed." The specter's laughter rattled the night. "Freed? I waited 100 years just to hear this?" A thunderous crack split the earth at the banyan's roots. Freezing wind blasted outward, scattering candles and incense. The tree shook violently, leaves cascading like rain. A vast hand of shadow burst forth, seizing a Nguyen clansman and dragging him toward the swamp. "No!" someone screamed. Hung lunged, grabbing the man, straining to pull him back. His blood spattered across the dirt. "Lady Hua," he shouted, "if you need a life, take mine, leave the others." The specter froze. All 3 faces stared at him, one crying, one smiling, one furious. "You would give yourself for them?" Hung, breath ragged, nodded. "If my blood is enough for you to rest, I accept." The 3 faces merged into one. The ghost drifted toward Hung, her icy hand pressing against his chest. His heart seized as if crushed. Lan wailed, clutching at him, "Please, spare him." For a moment, the spirit's expression softened. Her eyes glimmered with tears. "You remind me of my brother, the only one who believed I was innocent." She stepped back. The darkness unraveled, dissolving into the night air, leaving behind only the faint scent of wildflowers. "Your blood is enough. I go now." Her voice faded into the wind. The moon paled, turning silver again. The banyan stilled. Silence fell over the clearing. Huyan Kong dropped to his knees, pressing his palms together. "It is done. The resentment is lifted. But mark my words. Offer her rites every year. Forget once, and she will return." The villagers staggered to their feet, pale and trembling. Hung collapsed from weakness, and Lan caught him in her arms, sobbing, "You're alive, thank heaven and Buddha?" Hung turned his gaze toward the new shrine. A gentle breeze brushed past him, like a hand stroking his hair. And for the first time in a century, the village of Bai Se exhaled. The morning after, Bai Se awakened from its night of terror. The sky was clearer than anyone could remember, washed clean to a soft blue. The heavy mist that always clung to the swamp had vanished, revealing a mirror still surface glinting with golden sunlight. Villagers gathered beneath the banyan. The new shrine still smelled of incense, but the air now felt different, peaceful, solemn. Mr. Ba rose to his feet, his voice low and steady. "From this day forward, this shall be Lady Hoa's Memorial Day. Our 3 clans will honor her every year, never forgetting." Everyone nodded in unison. Fear was gone, replaced with reverence. Dash dash dash. Hung sat against the great banyan, his wrist still bandaged from the night before. Beside him, Lan rested her head on his shoulder. "What will you do now?" she whispered. Hung gazed over the fields. "For now, I'll stay. I think I need to finish writing this story, not for the newspaper, but for myself, for her." Lan smiled faintly, eyes glistening. "Maybe that's best. To give her peace." He squeezed her hand, feeling its familiar warmth. For the first time in years, his heart felt lighter, though the shadows of memory would never fully fade. Dash dash dash. In the days that followed, the cries and the knocking ceased. Children once more dared to play in the fields, catching fish by the canals. Elders sipped tea beneath the banyan without trembling. Lady Hoa's shrine became a place of prayer. Each year, villagers came to offer incense, asking her blessing on their crops. The story was passed down to their children, not as a ghost tale to frighten them, but as a lesson in justice and karma. Dash dash dash. One late night, Hung sat at his desk, the laptop glow reflecting on his tired face. On the final page of his manuscript, he typed, "The blood of 3 clans has washed the sin clean. But should anyone repeat the crime, the vengeful spirit will return." A sudden cold breeze swept the room. Though the windows were shut, his lamp flickered, and a shadow drifted across the wall. Hung looked up. For an instant, a young woman in white stood beyond the window, smiling softly, her eyes shining like moonlight. Then she dissolved into mist. Hung smiled faintly and added one last line. "She has forgiven, but we must never forget." He closed the laptop with a long breath. Outside, the moon blazed, silvering the banyan's branches swaying gently in the night breeze. That night, the bells of Lin Ung Pagoda tolled across the fields, a sound stretching long and low like a farewell. No one knew if the bells were real, or only echoes within their hearts. Yet all felt the same certainty. Baise would never be the same. Dash dash dash. Hung clasped Lan's hand firmly. He knew the road ahead was still long, but the night of horror had bound them together, and to this land, forever. The curse was broken, but Lady Hoa's presence lingered as a warning. Hung had found new meaning for his life. Though the scar on his wrist would always remind him, the cost of redemption is real. Dash dash dash. This concludes the story. Thank you for listening until the very end. If you enjoyed it, please give me a like and subscribe. It's the greatest encouragement for us to create more haunting tales for you. If you have questions or notice any flaws, leave a comment below. Thank you for watching, and *bong toi trong dem ***. We'll see you again in the next story.